The one that I'm still very proud of is the splash effects. Hi, I haven't properly introduced myself. I'm Adriel, a freelance photographer, among several other things. Let's talk about my photography journey so far. Story time. So, how did photography start for me? I've never really had photography in view or way back. I don't even think it was even in my peripheral vision, honestly. I think the closest thing to a connection I have towards a camera will be cinematography, and that will be Clarence Peters. Admired his work a whole lot, music videos, creative stuff he did. Um, he, I think, directed some episodes of Everyday People as well. So yeah, that's how far back I think any any link towards liking a camera. Well, I liked, cinematography and what Clarence Fisher was doing so much that I wanted to follow that path as a career. I remember applying to his alma mater in South Africa. Then I got admission, but I couldn't go then because of the conflict and xenophobia issues were going on between South Africans and Nigerians at the time. I also applied to Accra Film School in Ghana as well. It was a diploma. I didn't eventually go. I was advised to have a degree instead. At the time, the news or the advice did not meet me well, but in retrospect, I think I'm very grateful to have listened to that and having that edge. So it was one of the very good decisions I've ever made. Photography for me, what was fascinating about it, it wasn't really the photography at its basics, because if we look back at cinematography, what really clicked for me was right from time I don't know if it happens to everyone, but I've discussed with a couple of people and they say it's quite unique. Is whenever I listen to music, I kind of watch the music video in my head. What I mean by that, I do not mean I'm recollecting what I've watched. I tend to create. So even songs that the music video has not come out yet, I can't just listen. When I listen to it once, twice, three times, I'm directing it, like watching the full blown thing in my head. So the goons and the cartoon characters in my head, I think would be what kind of drove me into the arms of the camera, I guess. Yeah, I think that's it. So for me, photography in its normal phase, just taking pictures of people, was never, something that enticed me. For me, it was more of an expression of my art. So I tell some of my close friends I could quit photography today if I find another medium to express these creative ideas and the goons and cartoon characters in my head. So I think that was basically it. That's actually what looped me in. So I can't really think back to any photographer that I really looked up to. And that is not because of the lack of, people being there to look up to. It was just never really in focus at all to have. And I started actually playing around with the camera, let's say, should be my first and second year of university. Before that, I loved to stitch up things together. I think that was Windows Movie Maker at the time, So I love to stitch things together and edit. So I think that's a little bit of what I loved about video, but never hands-on holding a camera. I started mobile photography, uh, disturbing a lot of people close to me then, the apartment, hostel, just take pictures of them, worry them a lot, and really appreciate them for having the patience, to actually allow me to try out things. So I would say photography for me started in 2017. Yeah, 2017. That was actually later part of 2017. That's when I actually had a DSLR camera. Like I actually had a professional camera to call my own and work with. So I think that's where it started. It started, it still is anyways, but it mostly started as an experimental phase. So I was interested to take portraiture, landscape, wildlife, events, just try out different things. And you could see from my early works, for people that followed me from the beginning, you just see it's quite scattered without any direction. It took a very long time for me to actually pick someone I would say I look up to as an idol. And in retrospect, to it's also due to the fact that I didn't do a lot of research about what people were doing. I was mostly isolated in my own thoughts and ideas at the time. And my focus at the time was trying to wrap my head around Photoshop. Photoshop was something I was really afraid of back then. Absolutely don't know why. It just looked scary. And it's quite ironic because I entered into the Adobe Creative Suite through Premiere Pro. If you know Premiere Pro, it's a little bit much more complicated than Photoshop. So for the life of me, I could use Premiere Pro, but I don't know what the fear was with Photoshop at the time. So I think that was actually my focus at the time. Watching tutorials, trying to gain my confidence and have at least a basic idea of how to use the softwares. I would say the first time I actually picked up anyone at all to say, okay, this is someone I would want to look up to and admire this person's work is Rob Woodcocks. And that was during NYSC 2019. That was also the time I actually took photography seriously. What I mean by serious is when I started actually making money, like money off it. Not anything quite substantial or serious, but at least enough to survive as a copper. So yeah, really grateful to photography for that. So I love Rob Woodcock's. His works are just mind blowing. The art he does with the human body shape and form and all that was just really inspired. So that was something I love to see and follow his works, and even conferences, his lectures and some tutorials and master classes I've attended of the said photographer, following his work and all that. So I would say that's actually someone that I look up to till date. Yeah, that's someone I do look up to. So my big break, I would say, big break, probably. I think the time photography, I would just say the time I got validation, because, yeah, people would look at what you've done, like a little bit of creative stuff I've done, and like, okay, this person's head is here, is good with a lot of that. Because I think during NYSC, my CDS, I did a lot of candid shots. I miss my old lens, having to take pictures of people from far and observing them in their true form. It was so natural, and I was so grateful to take those memories and see how people's faces light up when they see this stuff, because they do not even know I'm taking pictures of them, so they don't have to pose, frame, or anything. So you could just see a picture of people hugging themselves, they've not seen all week, and their faces lighting up. Just that was really an experience for me. I'm really privileged to have that, giving people a view into how they actually live life. Because when you're taking a picture and camera is in front of you, like a camera is in front of me now, I'm I tend to behave in a certain way, kind of more composed and how you normally see me. So it was just beautiful to have that. Anyways, that about that. I think the first major experience that gave me validation that, okay, probably this thing you are doing is worth doing, or people fancy it, or that kind of feeling, was when I finished NYSC, or my passing out parade. So to mark off finishing NYSC, I did like a POP series then. It was just a concept I had in mind. I was like, just so nice. It's been a year of all the wala that comes to NYSC. I just wanted to mark it off with something. And at the time, I was looking a little bit at manipulation photography, compositing, levitation. And I was like, okay, let me just try this thing out. And funny enough, that's like the very first attempt. I never tried anything before that. I just had the idea and decided to do it. So I called up my guy Junior and I was like, "You have this idea. Have this idea. Let's just do something." And I was like, "Oh, cool, cool, cool." It was khaki. Came around. Um, the whole process of shooting, the process of shooting that stuff and editing, I think 20 minutes. 20 minutes from the time we left my place to shoot it to the time the picture was uploaded on Instagram, about 20 minutes. It was that fast. So just set out from my place, picked up a stool from a shop and that 69 road Gwarimpa Estate and just went to shoot it. Came back, put it on Photoshop, did a little masking, nothing out of the ordinary. It was just fast. We're excited about it and we just put it out there. And in retrospect, I think we should have taken time to actually edit, do a more elaborate work for that. So I didn't even know. I think I put it out there and there was a little bit of, okay, yeah, this is novel, this is nice. But I think 11, 12-ish at Old Parade Ground, no POP, everyone is smiling at me. I'm like, yo, what's up? What's happening? And I went to the WhatsApp group, I think my platoon, my CDS, and I was just saying, made. That's what they're calling it time. I looked at it and was blowing up on Twitter, really crazy. I think the caption was along the lines of, I think this photographer must have a PhD or something like that. So yeah, I think it was the first moment of, I would say, validation that made me realize that, okay, this is something that you'd want to do. And it kind of helps because if there's any doubts that, was existing at the time, this kind of experience is definitely something that would clear it up. And that was what it did. I got a lot from it. I think obviously exposure, not just Instagram, not just Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, all over. It was just everywhere. Different people, posting it and all that. I got recognition for that. And I would say, yeah, a couple of connections too I got from that. A lot of gigs that, people wanted to do some collaboration and all that. Well, it's just quite sad because what followed barely days after, such a high, it was an anticlimactic moment because, the lockdown came, COVID. It's one of the most scariest and uncertain times that, I think everyone has ever experienced, It was crazy. So a lot of things that would have been done from that, a lot of things I would have said, I'd have accomplished from that. I think I lost about 80% of that because, there was a new need at the moment. There was a new pressing issue. And my creative process from that time, it kind of tanked. Because the whole period of lockdown, I was in a hospital. So you can imagine how the protocols were in such an environment. I was in the staff quarters of the hospital. So yeah, it was like a really serious tank from there. So I kind of picked up again, and I think this is what I'll say when you need to have friends or good people by your side that care about you, are interested in seeing you grow. Because someone pointed out the bow challenge to me, then that was the maiden edition, and I talked to a friend of mine and someone I really respect and value to date, because whenever I have an idea or concept or something I want to shoot, like steadily, she's there and she wants to make it work. So she modeled for me, saw that location, everything. It was more like they just want to see you succeed. So most times, a lot of the efforts that you'd have wanted to put, I'm not saying you shouldn't put effort, but it just makes things easier. Having a team just excited to work for you and with you. So we did that. We did not win. But in retrospect, again, I think having to participate in the first one was instrumental to the success that I found in the second edition. So the second edition, I was back in Lagos, just finished from service, jobless, applying, nothing to do. So when it came up, I was excited and I was like, you know what? I have to give it my all this time. And I would say about the 3 seasons, because I participated in all the three. As of the time I'm recording this video, there are only 3 seasons of the Unleash Your Bow challenge. I think the second one was the most painstakingly stressful, very stressful, because there were 3 stages. The other seasons just had a single season. So just, I think, a single or two, I guess. I think two. The third one had 2 stages. So the second season was something else. I think the stage one we had Nigerian independence. Stage two we had vintage, and stage three we had Nigeria Christmas. The first stage, and I think this is like an advice if you're starting up anything generally, is to listen. No man is an island of ideas, and you just have to take in a lot from different people, especially when you're in the line of doing something or kind of like a service where you're servicing people, or there's a prerequisite of an acceptance from people. Then you have to listen to people. So the first idea, the original idea I had for stage one, still grateful to my big bro for giving me that advice. I'm not quite sure I would have progressed to the next stage if I'd gone with that. Maybe we never know. But it was just novel. It was more about me flexing my creative muscles than actually doing something that had a meaningful, story behind it. At the time of shooting the first stage, we had a whole SARS issue, and he was like, "This is what's happening at the moment. So you need to do something in the line of this. You infuse that with Nigerian independence, and then you tie it up with the brand." And that's what we did. And I think of all the stages, that this is one that I would say I'm proud of, but then I have mixed feelings. I have mixed feelings regarding that, because these were really like trying times, and it was a moment where we had social political awareness of Nigerian youth at the time, and the sad events that prompted the whole thing. So it's kind of mixed feelings regarding that, but just proud that one, I could listen, because I'm a very stubborn person, so I could listen personally and do something, and it came out well. So the second stage, moved on to the second stage. We did vintage. I would say the vintage would have been the most taxing when it comes to bringing the project together and sourcing out for props. And I think the real thing there with a competition is always trying to bring a gun to a knife fight. So for every stage, what I'll always think of is I look at what the assignment we have. It is vintage now, so I'll think, what would people do when they hear vintage? And I try to like bring out maybe 15 to 20 different concepts that I feel are very cliche, and then I list them out and cancel it and go a different direction. And definitely, I do not want to be that guy. That guy when you say vintage, old school, you just slap on sepia or monotone, and then you feel you've done vintage. So I didn't want to be that guy. I was lucky to be back home in Lagos, because we had a storage unit of my grandma's stuff from like the 70s and way back. So I had quite a lot. It involved a lot of dusting, and I also had to source out props from the edits and the OKs. These are long-term family friends that were very instrumental to me winning as well. So yes, and not just sourcing props too, but also listening, because this is vintage now. And apart from having you have a look online, like this is a reference point I want to use to shoot something. You also have to listen to the people that experienced it, because that's where you get more original ideas as to what things should be. When they say you get, to learn from the horse's mouth, so to speak. And that's definitely what I did. So there was a lot of sourcing of information. I think 2 days to the shooting of the second stage, I was just sitting in my set and I looked around and I was like, wow, I had so much. I had a lot. And my headache at the time was not even not having enough. My headache at the time was more of how do I infuse all these things together. But I guess there's this Chinese quote that says it's better to have and not need than need and not have. And I think that was the situation I was in. And I think for the vintage stage, all the props that we used there, it was about, let's say, 98% original, like old stuff. We had things then as young as 20 years and as old or far back as 50 years plus. Yeah. So these were actually authentic vintage props that we worked with. We shot the vintage on my birthday. Very, very stressful. We started late. You know, after doing the indoor, we had to take the car out to the location where we're going to shoot the outdoor. It was actually the same location we shot the first stage as well. Yeah, so very interesting. I'm grateful for that location as well. It sounds dreary in my environment. So we did that. After putting all the things into the car, we used the Sienna. There wasn't space again for us to go in. It was just the front seat, so just the driver and the male and female model, they stayed there. So I, myself, and two other people, I think at the time we had to walk down and come back. I think that shoot, really opened my eyes to some level of resilience that I actually did not really know I had, because I had to carry some things on my head, like moving. It was really hectic. Then we had to fight with wild mosquitoes at the time because we shot late into the night. But I think the results were worth it at the end of the day. My body told on me when I came back. And this is the same thing again of having too much. I think at the end of the shoot, editing and all that, I had about 20 to 25 looks. I think different concepts. The idea was a lot. I had a problem again of deciding what do I do? What do I use? Because I think Instagram, the carousel is just the maximum of 10. I definitely knew what the cover picture would be, but I had to employ the help of some of my close friends to try to figure out what will make the cut. So we moved on to the last stage. The last stage was really scary because we had chopped down to 5 people. And out of the 5, I think about 3 of them, excluding myself, I was like, wow, these guys are good. Everyone was good with me, but those 3 were like major contenders because I was watching their works, and there's a particular person I felt would win it if they do not look my way. And we did it. I think the most stressful part of this third stage was sourcing out for the products to use, because at the time I don't think both had not achieved that market penetration. So even a couple of retailers were oblivious of the fact that they had other flavors. I think it was just ginger and I think lime or lemon that was a little bit in focus at the time. So I think orange and tropical was where we had issue finding it. And again, helpful to have people that believe in you and want to work with you, because it was a collective effort to actually find it at the end of the day. I'm grateful to everyone, still very grateful to everyone that made the whole thing happen. So I don't think if you want to do photography, it's not a one man job. Yeah, you might have ideas, but it definitely it pays you well to have a team. That's what I'll say about that. I think in reference to bringing a gun to a knife fight, I also look back and I realized I think the first stage after I submitted my entry, a couple of people submitted their entries too as well, and they were just soliciting for votes and thinking of what to do. And I was like, nah, we die here. So I kept doing different concepts. I did not stop. It was like this rush of creative overflow. So I did a lot of concepts. I kept doing stuff. It was even so good that both actually posted another unofficial entry. So I had to hit them up that, I don't want to be in contradiction with the rules. You're only allowed to have one entry. So yeah, it was good to have that. And of all the I think all those submissions for bold, the one that I'm still very proud of is the splash effect. And again, advising if you're starting up, you need to be experimental and learn. You cannot just decide to just relax. So I was just learning different kinds of photography, and I saw this water manipulation thing, and I was like, okay. It wasn't even it wasn't anything intentional, to be honest. It wasn't like I envisioned this and I did it. I just slapped on, one of the pictures at the time, we did from the first. I was like, let's use this, and then I worked with it, and the result was wow. And that's just it, man. So it's definitely one of my favorite works to date. Yeah. Moving from that, I think winning the whole bold challenge thing, apart from the monetary stuff, which I invested back into photography, all of it. Um, what I would say is the exposure that came out of it. Like one of the biggest clients I have was, from the exposure gotten from the challenge. And I got collaborations from it. I got links, I got jobs. It led to more money down the line. So yeah. So he did that, and then after the whole bold challenge and the extreme level of validation at that point, it felt a little bit like utopia. And I was like, okay, so this manipulation or crazy experimental thing I'm doing with photography, let's just see, let's push on. And that's what I did. So I did a lot of crazy stuff after that. And I still did a lot of stuff for bold or in line with the bold brand, even after the whole stuff. Then season 3 came again. I did not want to. I wasn't really excited, like doing anything again. I'd probably seen it all, so to speak of. But eventually I had a crazy, inkling and an idea I wanted to put out, and I did. And again, the manipulation was so crazy. There was almost like a debate, like it was this fall in illustration or photography. So these things are just basically, I think as a creative, what excites you the most is having an idea in your head and then being able to bring it out in a physical form for people to experience your ideas with you. And I think that's a beautiful thing. For that picture, I would say it was like 85% what I had in my head is what I wrote out. So it was quite, apt in that sense. Once something little I get from it as well. So I'll just say if you want to do photography and you see opportunities like this, you need to take them on. It's going to be very challenging, doing this stuff, trying to keep up and being in a competitive environment. It's crazy because you're not just thinking of I want to create for the sake of just creating. Now you're thinking of I want to create, but then I want to beat the competition as well. It will help you down the line in business, which I think to an extent it did. So I think those were the high moments. Then just photography that followed after that, I think. For me, that was just the whole thing. I think so far. What other story do I have? It's just there are smaller things. So I would say if you want to start up photography, what should you do? Have good people by your side. Share your ideas. Don't share your ideas with everybody. I think it would be a big mistake if you share your ideas with just anyone because not everybody wants to see you succeed. So just kind of read the room and tell people that are interested in seeing you grow and work with them. Very important. I would say experiment and learn. Very important to continue learning. You can't stop. Apart from learning photography, your skills, you learn photography as a business, then you should try and improve your proficiency on editing softwares. It's crazy now because AI has really, advanced what photo editing is. Way back 2015, 2016, you had to pick up your pencil and, quick selection tool and manually, you make your selections if you want them very neat. But now you have to, you know, select subjects. You can even cloud process it for better results. So I'll just say if it's something you want to do professionally along the line, you should try and improve your proficiency to be able to still do these things, manually. Because I think there are little things that you might want to, some specifics that you might want to do that AI might not be in line with for that, and then you can just rip it up easily. But at the end of the day, work smart, not just hard. So if it's not really something that be very important to you, yeah, don't bother. And I'll say read the market because that was another part of my story. I think the reason why you've not seen a lot of manipulation, I think, not because I've not done anyways, I have some I've not released unfinished works, I would say, is understanding the market. Because when I did this creative, crazy stuff, it was novel. People were like, okay, they'll gravitate towards your work and all that. But then you see people coming, sending me a picture of like a retouched, stuff. I want to do a birthday shoot. Even someone messages me like, no offense, I know like you're good with what you do, but can you do this? And that was just the need. It was a continuous need. So I wouldn't say just one person, like all the people coming around me, this is what they wanted at the time. And I was just like, okay, if this is like the people that are gravitating towards my work at the time, I don't think I should just be in the place to say, no, this is how I do things. You want to make money. So you have to, satisfy the customer's need. So to understand the business too, not just the creative side. And I think the funny thing is, all the time I was doing the creative stuff, apart from the challenge, I didn't get really any financial remuneration for it. And when I decided to, align towards what the customers were asking for, money started coming in. So at some point you can still infuse, but this is just what worked for me based on my own understanding of it. So yeah, I think that's it about that. Well, again, I think pricing, pricing is very important, but pricing is it's a very tricky subject because even established photographers too would would not, give you like a straight answer. Pricing will just depend on where you are. But I'll just say if you're starting, I think you should take on those jobs where they pay you garbage because you're getting experience points from that. And the things that you learn from that, if you're critical about your work and always doing retrospectives with yourself, so looking at what you can do better, you'd realize that these things will be helpful along the line. So sometimes I would say don't allow people cheat you, but at the same time, if you're starting, yeah, and not just if you're starting, everybody starts differently too. If you have quite a lot invested, you know, I'll just say what's your objective at the moment. But if you're starting, definitely, what's important is to build a portfolio, which you can use to now land the bigger clients. So I think that's my advice on that. Dealing with clients. Another thing. That's like another video because I have a lot to say. I can't put that into this video, dealing with clients. But I'll just say this: you need to have interpersonal relationship, like good communication skills, in that aspect. Very important. So it's a business that is not just about how good you are or how good the the quality of your work is. It also deals with how you deal with people. If you are very rude and people cannot work with you, you're not easy to work with. People, you might not grow in your business, and a lot of people might decide to deal with your shit for a while. But definitely, people are improving and coming up as a competitive, industry. So people might just decide to not even take a deep, a step down from your quality and work with someone that it will be easy to work with. So it's always good to understand customers are right, and not all the time. And when they're wrong, you can kind of chip in, your own perspective in a respectful way. So it's just about being tactical in your approach towards them. They will try you. They will really try your patience, but it's just having, at the end of the day, you're thinking about your brand and what image you want out there. And there might be times we still change it for people. That's just, some people are irredeemable too, as well. But just say, generally speaking, as much as possible, you know, for the sake of the business, because this is not a personal thing, this is business, and for every action you take, there's a ripple effect. So always think of the ripple effect, not just the fact that someone is pushing you. So I think that emotional maturity is key if you want to do photography as a business. Then there's this saying that it's not the camera that makes the photographer makes the photographer. I agree and I disagree with it at the same time. Definitely, if you want to give quality, you need a quality camera and a quality lens and probably good lighting. That's just a fact. You understand? If you do not have these things, if the kind of camera you're using is quite ancient and it's not really giving you the best, and probably your lens is crappy, along the line, if you do not try and do something about it, your business will not grow, people will not book you. So to me, it's not practical. I think the whole idea behind that saying is trying to encourage photographers to really work on, photography skills. Talking about your appreciation of lights, how you expose your images, how you frame them, your concepts, working with people, framing people together, your photography triangle, rule of thirds, all those photography basics, and even your software editing proficiency as well. So those things are important. I think that's priority first. You should know these things before handling, because it will even inform how you even get to use the professional camera. But at the end of the day, I think it's a mix of the two. And if you're starting and you don't quite have that financial um stance, which is funny because if anybody tells you photography is cheap, they are lying to you big time. It's a big lie. It's very expensive. It's a very expensive endeavor, and you just have to know if you're starting at first. I think that's the next thing I'll come to again. If you're starting at first, you invest in yourself. And I'll just say, if you're not quite in that space to do that, it'll be difficult for you to grow. But you need to invest in yourself. It absolutely makes no sense that you're starting up your business and you get to make some money, and then you squander it on things that do not reflect back in the business. Yeah, you can rent equipment, but I would just say it's a good thing, but then it is not reliable. That's just it. There are just moments that your hands are tied and nothing's working in your favor, and probably it's already booked out from here. Or the person that promised you decides to come up with a very fantabulous story, and then you're stuck. You're wondering what to do. You're running helter skelter, and that's not how to do business. So I don't think that is I don't think that's the right thing, or the proper thing to do, honestly, for a photography. That's not the way to go at all with that. So I think that's my story so far in regards to photography. I'll still do another video on clients because there's a whole lot of story there, especially mistakes that I've made. So I guess this is my story so far. Not quite there yet, still growing, and we'll see. In a bit, we'll do another video again, and hopefully I would have reached the new heights, and then I get to reflect back again and probably tell you that a lot of things I've said here doesn't matter. And there's a different way to follow, because I just said you need to embrace change. It's a dynamic market and everything seems to be changing. But that's my photography story.